Greetings, music lovers, thrill seekers, and conversationalists all across the fruited plain. There is a deal with Iran. The Strait of Hormuz is going to reopen on Friday. And somewhere in a cave in Tehran, a bunch of mullahs are reading the fine print and trying to figure out if they got played. I'm Rick LeBeau. This is Rush Hour, and we are just getting started. Folks, let me set the stage for you here. We are sitting in Evian-les-Bains, France. That's a real place, by the way. It's where they bottle the fancy water that costs $12 at the airport. And President Trump is at the G7 telling reporters that the Strait of Hormuz is going to be fully reopened by Friday. The demining process is underway. And J.D. Vance, the vice president of these United States, is going to attend the formal signing ceremony of the deal between the United States and Iran. Now, let me take a breath here, because there are people out there, and you know who they are, who are already on television right now saying this is basically Obama's Iran deal all over again, just with a better negotiator wearing it. And I want to address that. I want to address it directly, and I want to address it honestly, because I think this story deserves that. The Obama deal, the JCPOA they called it, was, to put it plainly, a ransom note dressed up as diplomacy. We gave them pallets of cash, literal pallets, cash money on actual planes, $150 billion unlocked in sanctions relief. And what did we get? We got a promise, a pinky swear from the Islamic Republic of Iran that they'd slow down their nuclear program for a little while. No destruction, no accountability, just slow down, maybe. And we couldn't even inspect the military sites. That was the Obama deal. Barry thought that was a masterstroke of foreign policy. And our friends in the drive-by media fawned over it like he'd invented peace itself. Now, let's look at what Vance is describing here. He's saying the highly enriched material will be destroyed, not stored, not diluted, not moved to a warehouse somewhere that will inspect on alternating Tuesdays. Destroyed. And if they don't agree to stop enriching and allow strong inspections, not the toothless courtesy call inspections of the JCPOA, they don't get the benefits. Full stop. Now, I want to be careful here, folks, because the text of this deal hasn't been fully released yet. And I've been around long enough to know that deals look a lot better in the press release than they do in paragraph 47 of the actual document. I'm not going to sit here and tell you this is a perfect deal. I don't know that. You don't know that. Nobody knows that yet. But let me tell you what I do know. I know that the Strait of Hormuz, which handles something like a fifth of the world's oil traffic, for those of you not steeped in maritime petroleum logistics, has been partially blocked by Iranian mines since the escalation earlier this year. And that has been a tax on every American who's filled up a gas tank. A hidden tax, the kind Washington never has to vote on and never has to answer for. And it is coming off Friday. That is not nothing, my friends. That is real. That is tangible. You will feel that at the pump within weeks. And the media will try very, very hard not to give Donald Trump credit for it. Watch. You watch how this gets covered. They will find an angle. They will find an expert, probably someone from the Brookings Institution or some think tank that gets its money from people who vacation in Davos. And that expert will explain to you very gravely that this deal is actually dangerous, that we gave up too much, that the verification mechanisms are insufficient. And maybe they'll be right. Maybe the verification is insufficient. We don't know yet. That's a fair concern. But I guarantee you, those same people said absolutely nothing when Barry was loading up the cargo planes with shrink-wrapped currency headed for the mullahs. That deal they celebrated. That deal was sophisticated diplomacy. This deal, before they've even read it, is already dangerous. The consistency is breathtaking, truly. Now, there's a wrinkle here that I think is worth flagging. National Review. God love 'em, the old guard never-Trumpers still chugging along, has a piece asking whether Obama gets the last laugh on Iran. The argument being, the shape of this deal rhymes a little too much with the JCPOA for comfort. And I don't dismiss that out of hand. That's a legitimate question. The details matter. But here's the difference that no one wants to say out loud. The JCPOA was built on the assumption that if you're just nice enough to the Iranian regime, if you show them enough respect and give them enough economic breathing room, they'll moderate. They'll become a normal country. That was the theory. Engagement, warmth, cultural sensitivity. Donald Trump operates on a different theory entirely. His theory is you get what you negotiate, you keep what you can enforce, and nobody gives you anything for free. Does that mean this deal is bulletproof? No. Does it mean the Iranians won't try to cheat? Of course not. They're going to try to cheat. That is what they do. The question is what happens when they do, and whether this deal has teeth. The Obama deal had gums, pretty much just gums. Now, I also want to say something about Gavin Newsom real fast, because I can't resist. The governor of California, who has been running a shadow presidential campaign ever since the Democratic Party realized Joe Biden was reading his teleprompter upside down, Gavin Newsom is out here claiming the DOJ is investigating him. Him, the man who has turned California into the world's largest open-air demonstration of what happens when liberal governance goes completely unchecked. He's the victim now? Folks, when gas prices come down because of this Iran deal, Gavin Newsom will somehow find a way to make sure Californians don't benefit from it. He'll add a new fee. He'll mandate a transition surcharge. He'll call it an equity fuel reconciliation assessment and direct the proceeds to a nonprofit run by someone who attended his wedding. That man could find a way to make cheap oil expensive. It's a gift. The bigger picture here is this. The White House is going on a full-court press to sell this agreement before the text is even out. Vance is doing every television show in America. They're getting out ahead of it. They're trying to shape the narrative before the opposition can define it for them. That is smart politics. Whether the deal itself is smart policy, that, my friends, we will know more about by the end of the week, when the text drops and the strait reopens. Or doesn't. Don't doubt me on this. The test of this deal is not the signing ceremony. It's not J.D. Vance in a nice suit shaking hands in some European hotel. The test is 6 months from now, 12 months from now, when we see whether Iran is actually dismantling and whether the inspectors are actually getting in. That is when we'll know if this is a triumph or a trap. But for today, ships are moving, gas prices are heading down, and the mullahs are, for the first time in a very long time, on the receiving end of American leverage rather than American apology. I'll take that, for now. All right, folks, time for the roundup. We are rapid fire now. Quick takes, clean hits, let's go. First up, the FBI disrupted a plot, and this is a honest-to-goodness foiled terror plot, targeting the UFC Freedom 250 event in Washington, D.C. You know, the big UFC fight they held on the White House lawn. 5 people in custody across multiple states. The alleged plan involved explosive drones, targeting an outdoor event full of American civilians watching 2 guys punch each other in the head for our entertainment. Now, I want you to think about this, because this story is barely making a ripple in the mainstream press. And you know why? Because it was stopped. It didn't happen. And the FBI, which has had some, shall we say, credibility challenges in recent years, actually did its job here. They disrupted it before anyone got hurt. And the drive-by media's general rule is, if the good guys win and the story doesn't fit a particular narrative, it gets about 45 seconds between the pharmaceutical commercials. 5 people in custody. Explosive drones targeting a presidential event in the United States of America. That is not a small thing, folks. That's not a routine arrest. Pay attention to this one as more comes out. Next, the Supreme Court declined to hear Carter Page's case against former FBI officials. Now, for those of you who may not have followed this closely, Carter Page was a foreign policy advisor to the Trump campaign who was surveilled by the FBI using a warrant that even the government now admits was, quote, ill-advised. That's the polite word for it. The less polite word is fraudulent. The warrant was obtained using the Steele dossier, the famous opposition research document commissioned by the Hillary Clinton campaign and the DNC, dressed up as intelligence, and the FBI used it to spy on an American citizen attached to a presidential campaign. The government has essentially admitted this was wrong, and yet Carter Page, who had his life turned upside down, who was dragged through the press as a Russian spy, who had his reputation shredded, Carter Page can't get his day in court. The Supreme Court said, no thanks. You know what the lesson is? If the federal government destroys your life and then admits it made a mistake and you're a private citizen, you apparently have no recourse, none. But if you're a former FBI official who helped do the destroying, you're fine. You're on a podcast somewhere, maybe writing a book. The rule of law is supposed to work the same for everyone. Everyone. That's the whole thing. And it has been a long, long time since I've seen it work that way consistently. This doesn't help. Finally, ICE is doing its job, folks. ICE arrested a Russian national, an illegal alien, who was behind a semi-truck crash in 2024 that killed a person. A real person gone because somebody who had no legal right to be in this country was behind the wheel of a massive truck. And somewhere, right now, there is a family that lost someone and has been watching this situation for over a year, wondering when something was going to happen. And ICE came through. You know, the same people who want to abolish ICE, who put abolish ICE on yard signs next to their coexist bumper stickers, those people never explain what their plan is for situations like this. What's the plan? What's the alternative? Strongly worded letters? Restorative dialogue sessions? ICE does a job that needs doing. Sometimes they do it imperfectly. Sometimes there are legitimate complaints. But when a man who shouldn't be here kills someone and then walks around for a year and a half while the case just sits there, and then ICE shows up and handles it, that is the system working. That is what enforcement looks like. The people screaming to abolish it ought to go explain themselves to that family. My friends, we are at the end of another rush hour, and I want to leave you with something simple. Not complicated, not a 12-point policy framework, just simple. The world is not as scary as the drive-by media needs it to be for their ratings. It's not as broken as the left needs it to be for their politics. And it is not as hopeless as the people who profit from your despair would have you believe. We have a deal with Iran that might be good. We have gas prices that might come down. We have a military that lost 8 people today in a B-52 crash at Edwards Air Force Base in California. And I want to say that plainly, because those 8 people deserve more than a line in a briefing document. They were testing a plane for us. They were doing the dangerous, unglamorous work that keeps this country capable of defending itself. God rest them. God bless their families. America is not perfect. Never has been, never claimed to be. But it is the greatest experiment in human self-governance ever attempted on this earth. And the people who want to tear it down have never, not once, told you what they'd replace it with. Just this, but managed by smarter people. People like them. People who summer somewhere. I'm not buying it, and neither are you. That's why you're here. I'm Rick LeBeau. This has been Rush Hour, same time tomorrow, if they let us back on.